The most important thing is this government has deviated from the core principles of our republic. Gujarat 2002 is being replicated in Manipur. Manipur and Gujarat will be replicated elsewhere. Somebody who knows the basics of Indian economy or any economy for that matter will understand. Common person can understand. Black money is not stashed in cash. We are talking about a very serious issue of the country, the republic, and the crisis that it is facing on multiple fronts.
ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ഉള്ളത് ശ്രീ പരക്കാല പ്രഭാകരാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു അറിയപ്പെടുന്ന പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ഇക്കണോമിസ്റ്റ് ആണ്. നേരത്തെ രാഷ്ട്രീയക്കാരനായിരുന്നു. ടെലിവിഷനുകളിൽ രാഷ്ട്രീയ കമന്ററി നടത്തിയിരുന്ന ഒരു ആങ്കർ ആയിരുന്നു. ഒരു ബിഗ് ഡാറ്റ അനാലിറ്റിക്സ് കമ്പനിയുടെ ഉടമയാണ്. സർവോപരി ഈ അടുത്ത കാലത്ത് വിവാദമായ ദ ക്രൂക്കറ്റ് ടിംബർ ഓഫ് ന്യൂ ഇന്ത്യ എന്ന പുസ്തകത്തിന്റെ കർത്താവുമാണ്. അദ്ദേഹമാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ അതിഥി. സർ, വെൽക്കം ടു ദി പ്രോഗ്രാം.
Thank you.
So, sir, as you have come from Hyderabad, let's discuss election first. So, Telangana is going to poll soon. So, what is your reading about the Telangana election? Who will be coming to power?
I think as on today, it's going to be a very close fight. Even today, it looks that the incumbent BRS government has an advantage. But we do not know how the campaign will pan out in the next 15 to 20 days. The thing I feel is that if the local issues, the local unavailability of MLAs, their corruption and things like that, if they are foregrounded, then the Congress will have an advantage. But if, as these days, all assembly elections are not for MLAs, but they are for the chief minister. But if the election is constructed in such a way, the campaign is constructed in such a way that it is for the chief ministership, then the present chief minister will have a lot of advantage over the other people who can be potential chief ministers from other parties. I won't be surprised if the ruling party comes back to power. I also would be surprised if Congress wins it. It's a close fight. Having said that, I must also add that because Congress has started from a very low base, all the support and strength that it is gaining, it looks very big. But I am not very sure if the gains of Congress are enough to really defeat BRS and form government.
So, does that mean that the strong leader phenomena that we see in the national level and in many other states, that is in play in Telangana also, because KCR is perceived as a very strong leader against the other?
As far as the Telangana state politics is concerned, to some extent that holds good. But then, even if BRS retains power in Telangana now, I have a feeling that in 2024, Congress will have a huge gain in terms of Lok Sabha seats. That will not translate for seats of Lok Sabha for BRS.
You say that despite all the gimmicks by national leaders, BJP is not going to make any headway there.
In Telangana, no. I mean, it's very clear in the state elections, BJP is not going to be a significant force. It is now squeezed out of its position, both on the one side BRS and on the other side Congress. Last election, BJP could have some gains even in Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, because at that time Congress was at a very, very bad shape. They were at a very low level. The anti-government vote went to BJP those days. But now, in the face of revival of Congress in Telangana, I have a feeling that BJP is not going to make much headway.
So, sir, what about the other election? Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and Mizoram. I think you are closely observing all these states.
I do. Of course, I'm not much in touch with the Mizoram situation. But let's look at Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, 2018, the government was of Congress. In between, what happened, the BJP came to occupy the chief minister's position. My feeling is that Congress is likely to come back to power in Madhya Pradesh, retain Rajasthan, and also retain Chhattisgarh. That's my guess. I'm not basing this on any quantitative data, but you see, my understanding of Madhya Pradesh especially was that I have done a very massive quantitative data collection in 2018 elections, and my forecast was Congress was, going to form the government, and it came true. And at that time, not many people really believed that Congress was going to come to power in Madhya Pradesh, but that was my forecast.
So what happened in 2018 was that even after Congress winning all these states, the next year positions turned around. BJP won big in Lok Sabha election. So even now, if they come back to power in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh and win back Madhya Pradesh, can we say that it is an indicator of 2024 and the India front will gain from this?
Srijan, I do not believe that in collective life, in political life, and in politics and in elections, anything is inevitable. I strongly believe in the human agency. What are the political parties going to do? With what kind of an issues they are going to approach the electorate? How are they going to put forward their point of view? How are they going to convince them? How are they going to tell the public what's been happening, what's going wrong? It all depends on that. Nothing is inevitable. I do not believe in this inevitabilism. In 2019 it happened that way. 20, 18 that happened this way, and 19 it happened some other way. In 20, in now 23 it's going to happen this way. 24 it's going to inevitably happen that way. I don't believe in this kind of a thing.
So another factor might be Rahul Gandhi's transformation. It is Rahul Gandhi 2.0, 3.0 now, not the earlier Rahul Gandhi who was in 2014 or 19. So do you think that matters?
Wait, all these things really add up. The point is this, that how are the people now perceiving the government, union government, BJP-led government, BJP government, Modi government? I think a lot of illusions are shattered now. Unlike in 19, or before that, things are unraveling now. If you look at the economy, that last year, domestic savings in the country have contracted by 19%. And we have one of the highest youth unemployment in the world.
23%.
23.2% or 23.4% or something like that, nearly about 24%. We are
a quarter of the youth are jobless.
Of course, yes. And then our labor participation ratio is very unacceptable level, especially women's participation in the labor force is very unacceptably low. And manufacturing contribution to the GDP is very low, just 1.3, 1.4%. Rural distress continues. Absolutely no skilling. No jobs are created. Let me remind you of something. We've all read in the newspapers that in last year, 22, there were railway recruitment, a huge incident in Bihar, remember. For 35,000 jobs, they are called NTPC jobs, non-technical preferential categories. That means, manual labor. For 35,000 posts, 1.25 crore applicants have come forward. Now, that shows what is the kind of distress. On top of that, look at the inflation. It's nearly 7%. Food inflation is somewhere around 10% or more than 10%. Education, medical, fuel prices, every thing is become a huge burden on the common person. In spite of all the rhetoric of the government and the prime minister, the clever, marketing and all that, the reality has begun to bite. And look at the kind of inequalities that are growing. In 2014, when this government came to power, there were 125 billionaires. Today, there are about 140 billionaires. And the government wants us to believe that this is economic progress. This is not economic progress. Your per capita income has not risen. The size of the economy before the pandemic, after the demonetization, and today the size of the economy. The size of the economy has not gone back to its pre-pandemic level. So which means that there is virtually no measurable improvement in the economy. Another important thing is the data and the statistics and the figures that the government is putting out are so undependable. Because virtually, there is no access for us to government data because government doesn't really put out any data. You remember what happened just before the 2019 election? They've junked the entire unemployment report. And the experts...
Last week, Mr. James resigned, that population.
Yes. And, they do not want authentic data to come out. Because, that data showed that time in 2018, before the elections, 19 elections, in 2018, it showed that there was a huge jump in unemployment rate, largest in 40 years. Now, today, in the case of Professor James, Dr. James, so-called, open defecation free is not really, what the government is telling us. So that data, it's whatever data is inconvenient, but the government doesn't give you the data on employment, unemployment, doesn't give you the authentic data on inflation, manipulates data. For us, it used to be 1 kilometer of 4-lane road used to be 1 kilometer. But this government has changed and is telling us 1 kilometer of 4-lane road is 4 kilometers. Yeah, they're changing the base and they're changing the parameters so that they can market themselves as, really doing a lot of good to the economy. But that is not true. When you ask the government in parliament, they tell us that they have no idea how many migrant labor are there, how many migrant labor died, how many died during COVID for lack of oxygen or cylinders and ventilators and hospital beds, etc. But the Prime Minister goes to Karnataka during the election campaign and tells in the public meeting that he was abused 99 times, not 100, not 98. He's very precise when it comes to, talking about himself and, opposition criticizing him.
That is perfect.
But the data which is very vital to the economy, they are fudging. They don't come forward. Now, look at the employment, unemployment, look at the labor participation, look at the inflation, look at the fuel prices. Now, sometime back when rupee was about to touch 80 rupees a dollar, for a day or two, there was a huge hue and cry. Today, dollar is more than 83 rupees. Nobody talks about it.
Like the petrol price hike.
Petrol price. It reached 100 rupees everywhere, throughout the country. And that really has a cascading effect on everything else. The inflation that we see today is mainly because of that.
I think the points you have listed now, like the food inflation, increase in expenditure of health and education, everything touches personally to all voters.
And that is the reason why the household savings have contracted.
Correct. Domestic savings decrease because of that. So that can be a difference, right? Each one is pinching the heat. So will that trend to vote is another question. Now, 2024 is coming. As we are discussing election, I can ask one more question on that. So I know that you are a staunch critic of Modi and this government, and you have criticized almost every policy of the government. Now, if I ask you, as part of an appraisal of the government, if you can list any good initiatives of this government, will there be any?
I'm a diagnostician. I'll give you an example. If you go to a diagnostic center or a doctor for that matter, what is the doctor going to tell you? He is not going to tell you that your hands are very good, your eyesight is wonderful, your hearing is good, your nose is good, your legs are good, but you have a problem in the heart. Now, when you say that, you are not going to come out stamping your feet on the ground and say, look, my so many things are good and he's only talking about my heart. The point is this: I am not going to say that that particular thing is good, this particular thing is good, this particular thing is good, that particular thing is good, but the most important thing is a problem. This government has deviated from the core principles of our republic. That is the reason why I call my book, subtitle is A Republic in Crisis, Essays on a Republic in Crisis. We have become, over the last 10 years, very intolerant. Lynchings, call for economic boycott, Dharma Samsad, Swamiji is sitting there and giving a call for genocide. And some of these people are giving a call to keep arms at home. And in some places in Uttarakhand, they have marked houses of minorities. If this is not the founding principle of India, if those things are happening, what good can you see? Because that is more important than anything else. You might say that, look, they're giving 3 cylinders to a poor family. Now, you give 3 cylinders to a poor family, but 6 airports to your friend. So, for you and me, what are you going to look at and clap? And I tell my friends that, look, clapping for 3 cylinders, there are so many people. They're clapping. But I have to point out and I have to be critical of things that are going wrong. Of 25 lakh crores being written off from the corporate debt. I have to be critical of that. I need to point it out. Then the kind of growing inequality. A huge number of people have fallen into poverty for the first time since the 90s, in spite of whatever the government says. I'm telling you, the government data is undependable. Once upon a time, Srijan, Indian statistical architecture was very authentic. The entire world used to rely on it, believe in it. Today, it is completely discredited. People are not in the world taking our data seriously, our figures seriously. Look at the multidimensional poverty index that government has put out. People are laughing at it. That is the kind of state we are in. When you have a core problem, little things don't matter really. What matters is this country going to stay secular? Is it going to stay liberal? Is it going to stay democratic? Is it going to be tolerant? Is it still prepared to take citizenship as citizenship, not related to the religion that you practice? Or is it going to privilege one religion and ask all other people who are following different religions to be subordinate to those people who are following that particular majority religion? Is that the India that we looked at? Another important thing I want to bring it to your notice is that political platforms which had absolutely nothing to do with the long drawn freedom movement of India, today those platforms are marketing themselves as patriotic forces. What more? What more do you want?
So, and they rewrite history also.
They are rewriting history. They are taking out, chapters after chapter, including periodic tables. That is the kind of. Do we want that kind of an India? Now, look at these probably when you're talking about syllabus and periodic tables, you might feel that this doesn't impact the common person. But what about the price rise? What about unemployment? What about the domestic savings? What about fuel prices? What about all these things? And are we prepared to turn a blind eye to what is happening in Manipur? The Prime Minister doesn't even go there. He doesn't even address what is happening there.
And he is not going to.
He doesn't even meet people who have come all the way to Delhi from Manipur. He is not going to
Mizoram just because of this.
You see, and the Prime Minister has time to go all over the world, but not to Manipur. It is burning, and I tell you what, if these trends continue, I won't be surprised if Manipur is replicated everywhere else. Like Gujarat 2002 is being replicated in Manipur. Manipur and Gujarat will be replicated elsewhere. Don't miss the connection between these two.
So, sir, you said about the threat to minorities and all. So, to take on that, what is opposition doing? Today morning also I read about Kamala's claim of Rajiv Gandhi being the first person to allow worshipping at Ayodhya. So the credit for Ayodhya temple is for Congress also. And he also said they will be building a Sita temple in Sri Lanka and all. Is this the way to fight the Hinduism?
No, but you see, we can't really depend on the political parties to fight this kind of a trend. I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about BJP. I'm talking about the kind of narrative that has become very strong in India. I must also tell you that with a very few honorable exceptions, every political platform, every political party in this country has done business with this kind of a narrative. You can see a lot of political party leaders doing the temple tourism, claiming that we do puja part, and caving into pressure, even including your state, Sabarimala. Yeah. This kind of thing, if this continues, you can't really trust the political parties for this kind of a transformation. The civil society will have to demand of the political parties, look, this is not our creed. This is not the core value of India. India is a tolerant country. India is a democratic country. India is a liberal country. India is not for majoritarianism. This message will have to come very strongly from the civil society.
But the same voices of civil society are being targeted also. They are being jailed.
But you see, you can't expect the communal forces to be kind to you. They will try to muzzle your voices. They will put you behind bars. They will buy you and all that. But the beauty of democracy is to overcome this, to resist this. But I tell you something. I don't see this entire thing as an electoral fight alone. Electoral fight and electoral victory can ease the process probably. But even if BJP loses, the present government loses in 2024, don't be complacent. Because the poison of communalism has gone so deep. My reckoning is it will take at least 15 to 20 years to really take that poison out of the minds of the people. A large chunk of them. Knowingly, unknowingly also, people have, been talking so much in terms of communal, they versus us. What are they? They're dirty, they are lazy, they produce more children. Completely not commensurate with the data that we see. That kind of a narrative has taken roots in this country. Unfortunately, the most fertile ground for that kind of a narrative to take root was immediately after independence, after the partition. Because, tempers very, very high. Dead bodies came from that side and dead bodies went from this side. There were communal conflagration. People killed each other. Villages were burned and all that. And that time, the leadership of communal forces was also very strong, very tall leaders. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, Guru Golwalkar, Veer Savarkar was still alive. Karpatri Maharaj, Balraj Madhok, such people. Compared to that, the leadership is very little, very small, very incompetent compared to them. But
so you think there is no ideological upper hand in this government? The policies are not guided by the ideology or ideological.
This is the ideology. Article 370, Ram Janmabhoomi, Uniform Civil Code, Citizenship Amendment Act. This is the ideology now has become a very, very acceptable, because you see, the same political party used to fight shy of talking this language. If you remember, Srijan, in 1980, when BJP was founded, the BJP's core ideology was Gandhian socialism. Why did they say that? They said, you see, because anything else would have been unacceptable. Today they feel, even 2014, the same leaders, the same political party did not go to the electorate with majoritarian communal agenda.
Corruption was the issue.
Corruption, generation of employment, In fact, I remember very well the present Prime Minister.
Family rule also.
And the present Prime Minister, at that time, Prime Ministerial candidate of the BJP, he went around saying that the fight is not between Hindus and Muslims. The fight is between Hindus and Muslims on the one side and corruption and unemployment and poverty on the other. All of us together, Hindus and Muslims and everybody together, should fight corruption, unemployment, poverty, these things. So that was the agenda. That was. But today they have become so bold that, you see, even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, BJP used to say that they were also a secular party. But they were genuinely secular, others were pseudo-seculars. Today, do you hear the term secular from any of the BJP leadership? Today's government ministers and party functionaries, etc. Nobody. Now, look at the kind of language that was a member of parliament used, Ramesh Bidhuri, used in parliament.
Against Danish.
Yes. Look at that. Could you think of that kind of a thing about 10 years ago? No. Look at the kind of lynchings that are happening. Look at the kind of communal dog visits that you hear. Look at the calls for economic boycott. Look at instances where Dharma Sansad is calling for genocide, mass killings, giving a call to Hindus to keep swords and arms at home. And in places like Uttarakhand, they were marking the houses. Can you believe this kind of a thing? Can you even imagine this kind of a thing could happen in, say, about 10, 12, 15 years ago? It didn't. They have these. And have you heard any responsible BJP leader, either from the government or outside the government, condemn these things? Look at what is happening in Manipur. Can you imagine that kind of a thing happening about 15, 10, 12 years ago? No, not even 8 years ago. That is the kind of situation we are in. I'm telling you, the Republic is in deep crisis. Economically, we are in deep crisis. Our social fabric is really torn. Our economy is in doldrums. Our federal structure is in danger. Center-state relations, especially financial relations, are really, deviating from the federal principles. The states are squeezed. Those who are performing well are penalized.
like
Their,
our state Kerala.
the devolutions that have to come from the central government to the state governments are not properly channeled. This is the kind of thing that is happening. And the kind of proposals that we see today about delimitation is alarming. It really disempowers a lot of states which have done well, which have performed well in terms of everything that the government of India wanted, the nation wanted. This is the kind of situation we are in. I must say this on record, that the kind of dog whistles that we hear today from people like Swami and Nrsimhananda and things like that, we tend to brush them aside, but don't brush them aside. But if this kind of a trend continues after 2014, if this government returns, these kind of dog whistles will no longer be dog whistles, but they will be open calls from the ramparts of Red Fort. That is the kind of danger we are staring at. What is happening in Manipur, what is happening in parts of Uttar Pradesh, what's happening in parts of Uttarakhand, what's happening in Gujarat, this kind of segregation that we see, this is going to happen throughout the country unopposed.
So do you think that the India alliance, they have seen all these issues in the rights perspective? Are they very seriously aware of the threat as you have mentioned? Or is it only a survival tactic and understanding that is made out of necessity?
I cannot really tell you what exactly is in their minds. But political parties have their own opportunities, they have their own limitations, because every vote counts for them. They tell you something different to you from what they tell me to get your vote and get my vote also, although we both are poles apart, but they want both our votes. So
That
they
can be a
do,
strategy.
that's the electoral politics. Leave that. That is the reason why I don't trust the political parties much. I want the civil society, media groups and civil society groups, small groups, because you see, I'll tell you what, this danger has not come overnight. It has built up over the last several decades by, by hundreds and thousands of people, highly motivated, dedicated, willing to put in hard work, working without expecting immediate results, away from the limelight. As a result of that kind of a work, we are in this situation. The secular platform, the liberal platforms, the democratic platforms do not have that kind of a large cadre which is equally motivated to confront these kind of things. Now, the secular parties, whoever they have become just election fighting machines. Between one election and the other, they're just sleepwalking. There is no political education. There is no, political work. There is no ideological work. That was taken advantage of by the communal forces. They have worked. So now today, the challenge is not just electoral. Electoral challenge, if you win, it might help you. It might ease certain things. But the core challenge remains that, the secular narrative, the liberal narrative, the tolerant narrative, the constitutional values, these things will have to be injected into the public. Ideological work has to take place, irrespective of whether, electoral results are in favor or against.
So that means it need not stay as an electoral alliance only. It has to work hard even if they lose the election, they have to work hard back to back continuously for years.
Because ultimately, election is a reflection of what the society is prepared to accept or reject. If you don't prepare the society, election results will not be what you want them to be. You might win, but it's going to be a temporary victory. You see, 70 years of our constitutional values could be threatened in 5 to 6 years, because behind the scenes, a lot of work has taken place. Now, that kind of work will have to take place. Now, tell me one political party and political platform in this country today which is committed to ideological work.
Sir, another November 8 is coming. You might be, you have been a strong critic of demonetization. Even at that time, I think you criticized it in strong terms. So, how do you review that?
This vision, what was demonetization undertaken for? The Prime Minister then told us that, it is to curb black money.
Yeah.
Now, somebody who knows the basics of Indian economy, or any economy for that matter, will understand, common person can understand, black money is not stashed in cash. Now, what happened after that? 99% of the cash that you've demonetized has returned to the banks.
And even the money in circulation has increased.
And the money, the cash in circulation in 2016, 17, 18, when demonetization has taken place, 16, it was about 14 lakh crores. Today it's more than 34 lakh crores. So it has increased. Digital money also might have increased a bit, but then the cash has also increased. So what justifies? So your black money thing is gone. Black money is not stashed in cash. Your terrorist funding is absolutely, doesn't hold water. And your informal sector, which is a large portion of the Indian economy, is completely, smashed. Even today, the rural economy and the informal economy, the unorganized sector, has not recovered from the blow that it has received on account of demonetization. And immediately after that, you had COVID pandemic. So it has not recovered. It has done so much of damage to the Indian economy. Nobody really who understands the workings of the economy will undertake this kind of a thing, unless they are what I call in my book voodoo economists.
You use that in book also.
Yes.
Yeah. So, sir, I think time is also running out. So, can I ask one final question? Did your wife, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, read the book? Did she comment on that?
We are talking about a very serious issue of the country, the republic, and the crisis that it is facing on multiple fronts, from economy to polity to federal and secular, intercommunal relations, the political parties and secular platform, all these things. So, these things are not part of this kind of a conversation.
Yeah, I can understand, sir. It's okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being with us and enlightening us. Thank you.